Comrade fighters for freedom, for sovereignty, and real independence, hello. Let us give thanks to God who allowed this day, day 11, to take place, and that we could meet in this bowl of the Palais des Sports to discuss the future of our homeland. Following your decision on May 25 to entrust us with the destiny of our homeland for 5 more years, be grateful for it. We do not see this as a mandate, but we understood it as a message that was given to us. And the message was very well received. And we will do everything to always earn your trust. Allow me also to pay a vibrant tribute to all these defense forces, these internal security forces, our valiant volunteers for the defense of the homeland, and all these populations who live in these areas with a strong security challenge, who are standing up. We pay tribute to them, and we say thank you for all the sacrifices made for our homeland. I ask you that we can therefore observe a minute of silence to honor the memory of all those who lost their lives in this fight. Thank you. May the souls of the deceased rest in peace, and may the injured recover. Comrades, the emotion is great, of course, but allow me to articulate my remarks in 3 phases. The first phase will concern the stage from which I will explain to you how we see this world. The second phase, we will devote ourselves to explaining to you why we must continue to fight. And then the most important step would be to briefly outline the vision for the future, if I can put it that way. During these 20-some months spent at the head of state, we have had to meet several politicians from all sides. We met hundreds of diplomats from all sides. We met businessmen from all over the world. We have been open to all these exchanges, to all these discussions, to be able to learn from the world, to be able to understand the world. And today, I think that the opportunity is very good for me to be able to explain to you what conclusions we have drawn from all these meetings that we have had with politicians from all continents, diplomats from all the continents. It's very important. The conclusion we have drawn is very important, and it should allow you to understand the world. Because often in our countries, we do not have this perspective of being able to have access to certain people who will teach you a lot of things through their behavior, through their words, and also by telling you how they see us. Comrades, God created the world with all that there is in terms of happiness, misfortune, good, evil, humans, genies, animals, and everything that goes with it. But we humans have decided to make the world something else. Among the imperialists, they have a vision of the world that I will explain to you. The world is a triangle for them. You will see the triangle in most of their badges. Maybe you don't understand, but the world can be summed up in a triangle. For them, at the top of the triangle is the empire of good. And the empire of good is them. It is prosperity. It is everything that is positive. It is they who have the right to all that is happiness in this world. It is they who have the right to all wealth. It is to them to impose their way of seeing the world. It is up to them to impose their vision, their way of life. 2, this is why, during colonization or their conquest, I would say they came to our lands, and they said that they discovered our lands, because for them, we are savages. We have nothing like them, actually. So they called us natives, and they are the people. They arrogate all the rights, to themselves. And for them, the world must work the way they want it to. It's simple. I'll take a few examples. Look through their film. They have prepared the minds of their people to make them understand that they are the best. They are the ones who should own everything. You will not say the opposite. In all their films that they propagate, you will always find the bad guys. It is either Russians, South Americans, or blacks who play the bad role of drug traffickers, pimps, human traffickers, until the recent past, of course. This is a bit of how they perceive the world. When I look at the economic aspect, who among us has not treated Chinese products as Shintox products, as we like to call them, bad products? But today I can tell you that we are all wrong, because China has a fairly advanced level of technology. And it is in China that most of these countries come to obtain their supplies, put their mark on it, and resell it to us as their property. Look around you. Our entrepreneurs who are in the construction industry will not say the opposite. All their machines today are Chinese. Those who carry out transport will not say otherwise. They lied to us because we traveled around the world a bit in these 20 months to look for companies, to look for factories. And we understood that everything was coming back there. But through their communication, they led us to hate all Chinese products, to want us to understand that what is good came from them. Not necessarily anyway. It's simple. Go back in time. To better understand what I would say, we need to go back in time a little. And I hope that some people will read about the Tsars, the Mongol conquests, the Persian, Turkish, and Ottoman empires. Read their story, you will understand why the world is like this. At the base of the triangle, there are two empires. On one side, the evil empire, according to them, and the slave empire on the other side. This is how they see the world. Who do they call the evil empire? Which I just cited the origin of right away. And I told you to go back in time, go read it. You will understand why they are the evil empire in their eyes. They are fighting the evil empire. For them, the evil empire must disappear. For them, the evil empire embodies the devil. They communicate and they make it clear to their people that way. This is why, after the Second World War, in the 1980s, I would take the case of Russia, where all the stratagems were implemented to collapse it, with President Gorbachev. In the United States, it was President Ronald Reagan who was in charge. Three main stratagems caught our attention. So they went to Saudi Arabia to ask them to lower the price of oil from 35 to 7 to collapse the Russian economy. Along with this, the second ploy. Don't forget something. These same people who have just left Afghanistan, supposedly saying they were fighting the Taliban. The Taliban were received by President Ronald Reagan at the White House. They were armed by the CIA. The famous Stinger ground-air missiles were delivered to the Taliban to fight the Russians. And later, they come to supposed to fight them. Go figure it out. The third ploy was a bluff. The idea is Project Star Wars. Read. You will understand why they got President Gorbachev to create the Polos Project, which broke Russia. Once Russia collapsed, those who claimed to be from the empire began to gloat, until this team came along with Vladimir Putin to try to bring Russia back to the surface. The evil empire. The evil empire, according to them, suffered greatly. Look at Iran today. All the possible sanctions Look at how they characterize certain peoples. Through communication, they can make you hate a people or love a people. They are very good at communication, and they go through all possible channels. Look at the war going on. They invented everything for their own benefit. And finally, the slave empire. According to them, it is Africa and certain peoples of South America. In their minds, as I said recently, Africa belongs to them. Our lands belong to them. The riches of Africa are for them. And they cannot conceive that Africans can emancipate themselves, take their heads out of the world, water, and therefore want to stand up to them. And for this, they put a cliché in mind. The African is easy to manipulate. He is only emotion. They will always find an African to fight against his brother. And it's always been like that. Through communication, they made you hate your own skin color. In our cultures, and in many cultures in Burkina Faso, mourning was symbolized by the color blue. When a woman loses her husband, she therefore wore blue-colored outfits to mourn for a given time. They are the ones who came to tell you that black symbolizes mourning, the devil, mediocrity, everything that is bad. And unfortunately, we have swallowed this so much that when we grieve, we also put ourselves in black. We need to wake up. We need to wake up. Because this is the cliché they have in mind. They are the empire of good, others are the empire of evil, and we are the empire of slaves. This is how the imperialists see the world. You must understand this. And here, I am going to rant against certain intellectuals who continue to want to preach for the imperialists. Are they ignoring this part of the story? I'm not inventing anything. It's been declassified. You will find everything I said in the library or everywhere on the search engines. Haven't these intellectuals read that? Do they not know the history of this world? Perhaps it is dishonesty or a few dollar bills that leads them to always preach for the imperialists. Our intellectuals must be able to preach at all times, to raise awareness among our people, our popular masses, so that they understand where they come from and how they are seen by the imperialists. Let's take the history of a few wars. You followed the Iraq War, a big lie that was invented, supposedly about possession of weapons of mass destruction. Some senators in the United States did everything to have the evidence. They didn't get it. Remember that several people resigned from the CIA after this war. Evidence has been invented everywhere. Western secret services helped them fabricate evidence. And we remember that the same Niger was accused in his time by setting up a false agreement, a false contract for the sale of uranium to Iraq. This is the same process that they wanted to bring about last time for supposedly Niger selling uranium clandestinely to Iran. That they had no proof. Even the United Nations ultimately found that there was no tangible proof of the presence of weapons of mass destruction. But they had their objective, which was to destroy Iraq. They destroyed Iraq. They created the Islamic State, just like they created the Taliban in the 80s, the armies, equipping them, and then they pretend to come and fight them. Understand the game. It's gone on for too long. We need to wake up and understand all this and become aware of our situation and fight for our future. This whole war was invented passing through Iraq, Syria, Libya, with the aim of destabilizing the world for their benefit, because no one should be able to match them. This is what we are experiencing today in the Sahel also, that they have imposed on us, because they will always find black people who will get excited and who will take up arms against their black brothers. This is what we are experiencing. They never left this model. Unfortunately, many people agree with them. Because of a few dollar bills, they sell themselves much cheaper to the enemy, to the imperialist, and they begin to fight their brothers.